Before I let you go, Seth, you know how it works in sports. If you got some guy who's controversial, puts his stuff out there, is a little bit irascible, and you win, you don't talk about it. And Danny Hurley, when he shoves Cam Spencer in a national championship game, that's just kind of funny and quirky, when you win back to back. Now we're talking about Danny Hurley's comportment again, having been bounced in the round of 32. But he's right. I mean, when he said they went out with honor, certainly the way that they played against Florida, you knew they'd be a tough out. That said, we're talking about Danny Hurley's comportment again. Where do you stand on this subject, Seth?
Well, it's all in the soup, isn't it? I'll start with this. I think he did a really, really good job with this team. This notion that they were going to win three in a row is just, I never bought into it because, I mean, they lost four starters. Now, you had to wonder because the previous year they lost five of their top eight players from the first championship team and were able to win it again. So you sort of had that latitude, well, let's see. So I never ranked them. I think I started off in the preseason, my first AP ballot, Rich, maybe had them 10th, but I think they may have been second or third in the poll. So I was always like, let's maybe wait and see, but still 10th is pretty high. And Danny, regrettably, really fell into that, especially in Maui when they lost those three games, like just expecting to pick up where he left off the season before. And I think once he got back into kind of coaching these guys, and then they had a major injury with freshman Liam McNeely, Alex Caravan, a lot of people thought he would be like a first-team All-American. He was a good player, but he wasn't that. So they had a lot to work through. But at the end of the season, they were right there. And when you saw them against Florida, it was like, that's a Danny Hurley coach team. I mean, they took it right to that number one seed. So I love his vulnerability. I love his authenticity. You saw him getting emotional. Again, those players wouldn't play for him the way they do if he made it all about him. But, but there is definitely another side to that coin. We can say it's part of what makes him great. When you walk off the court and you're saying to Baylor, I hope they don't screw you like they screwed us, what you're saying is that Florida didn't deserve to win. That's not respecting your opponent, and that's not respecting the game. And Dan has a regrettable tendency to fall into that when he gets frustrated. And again, it's part of what makes him great, but it's part of stuff like that you can't defend. And so I don't like the way that he treats referees a lot of times. I think that, frankly, the NCAA and refs in general need to constantly look at the way that coaches talk to officials and act. I think they've gotten better in that regard. He won two national championships. And so the only thing worse than not having Danny Hurley, the only thing better than not having Danny Hurley as your coach is having him as your coach because he's going to win. And so he's a larger than life character at this point with a lot of rough edges. But I'll say this about him, Rich, he's no phony. There are a lot of phonies out there, and no one will ever accuse Dan Hurley of being phony. We got to give him that.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.